How long has it actually been since you've seen the film?
God, I don't think I've seen it in its entirety since I first saw the first cut of it with Keith Moon the week before he died.
Why not?
And what was it, a week before? About 3 weeks before he died. I'm not interested. I mean, it's done. That's past, done, gone. I don't see it again. What do I want to see it again for? I hate watching me. So, no, that was it. And he was deeply deeply shocked by it. I think because for him it must have been a very weird experience because he watched himself really go from a really young, good-looking boy, because he was only 18, who was just unbelievable personality, and turned into this spitting image of Robert Newton in literally, what was it, 14 years. I mean, it must have been kind of scary for him to watch, and he knew that the kind of last things that we played together, which was shot at Shepperton, we had to have bought one session because he was so out of it. He's being held on the drum stool by a roadie. So he kind of, all that was going through his head. So for him, it must have been almost, I've equated it to falling off a cliff and seeing your life kind of go. And I think, I don't know, it definitely, it shook him up really bad. I know that. It almost made him sober.
Scared sober.
Yeah, scared sober.
Have you never been one for looking back? I mean, even in the days when you did a TV show, were you ever curious to have a butcher's at it?
No, I don't care. We finish an album, it's done. I might hear it 20 years later and say, oh, that's a good band. And it's us.
But when you...
I find it really weird because, I mean, John used to, on a lot of stuff, he was always unhappy with his bass sound. And he'd literally go in and redo the bass of something he did 15 years ago, 20 years ago, just to get the sound better. And I just think, you shouldn't fuck with it. It doesn't matter. It's in the past. It's like paintings. It's like Picasso going back and take the painting off the wall of a museum, saying, "Oh, I think I can do this a bit better." It's not better. It'll just be a little bit different. I mean, but better is the moment, or best is the moment.
How do you feel about the fact that fans obviously like to look back, though?
Well, that's understandable because it's the history of the thing that they really love. I mean, and it is my history, but it's also my life. So I don't want to keep watching my life relived all and over again. I always look to tomorrow, and try and surprise myself today with what I can achieve today. That's literally how I go through it.
Were there some TV shows that ring bells and you say, I mean, just generally, this is not about a specific show, like the difference between like when you first did a British TV show like Ready, Steady, Go or Top of the Pops. You remember, was there like an exhilaration the first time you did one of those?
Terror, stark raving bloody terror, because the singer was always live. The band would always be playing the backing track, so their bit was all done in the studio where they could be drunk, completely paralytic, but they could go again and again and again. But a poor old singer, who usually had been up till 4 a.m. the night before, gigging somewhere like, I don't know, somewhere up in Scotland, and wheeled down to the studio, almost in pieces. He had to do it always. I was always on the fuzzy end of that lollipop, so I had to be doing it live, and it was always terror for me. But then I kind of got to like it. I mean, I remember the first. I can't remember the show, but it was a BBC Two show that Kit Lambert got us on. I can't remember the name of it. And I think we did a Martha and the Vandellas song. But it's all very vague, but kind of clear, but vague. I used to enjoy the Top of the Pops after we did it for a while, and then Top of the Pops became mine. Then it could become fun. But I always used to feel so out of place there. It wasn't my bag, the TV thing. I wanted to be in front of people doing what we did, and it always seemed like the TV was a barrier from us doing what we did. was always in the way. It wasn't anything that was, in my opinion, assisting us. Although it was, obviously. But not in the way I saw the Who. I mean, the Who was there. You had to be... That's how we were.
Now, talking of doing that, you got as close to doing that on the Smothers Brothers show. You pretty much got in everywhere.
Well, exactly. I mean we nearly captured it there, yeah. That's, yeah, dangerous.
Memories of that
Fucking
show?
dangerous. Memories of that show? Well, many. I mean, I remember the rehearsal where the bass drum had been, because Moon used to have this cannon in there that had been charged, and it went off like a wet fart. I mean, it was like someone just putting a skid mark on their underpants, and I mean, just a puff of smoke came out of it, absolutely nothing. So we thought, well, this is a bit of an anticlimax, and we weren't allowed to do our own pyrotechnics because it was, very, the fire controls in Los Angeles, even now, and then were even worse. They were almost fascist about it. And we thought, what are we going to do? Because it was our highlight. We were going to do two songs. One was I Can See for Miles, and the other was going to be My Generation. And obviously, the thing everybody wanted to see was these four lunatics smash their equipment up. They didn't care about the music in those days. They just wanted to see us smash our gear up. So anyway, when it came to smashing it up, instead of the usual smoke and fire at the rehearsal, it was just... We thought, well, this is terrible. We can't... And Moon, being the genius that he was at being able to work his way around anybody, went out and got a bottle of brandy, and the pyrotechnician got him absolutely paralytic with $300 in his pocket, which is more than in a month. And he overcharged the thing by about 4 times, I think, and it became a lethal weapon. I mean, when it went off, because we were just thought it was going to be like it was in rehearsal. When it went off, it was like a bomb. And if you look at the video, and well, you obviously have because you've done it, and you look at it frame by frame by frame, it's such a big explosion that Pete's hair is actually a light. And when you see him, he's patting his hair, because his hair at the back of his head was a light. And I mean, he was 10 feet from the drums. If you look, I go completely out of frame immediately, because it blew me over. I was flat on my face. And the funny side of that story is, when once all that was over, our eardrums had gone, everything, the audience was in shock, we were in shock. I don't know how it shows you how professional the Smothers Brothers were, because they just held the whole thing together. Totally kept to the script, bang. They nearly lost their jobs over it. It was a really serious incident. But the thing that I always remember, that on the same show there was Mickey Rooney and Bette Davis, who we'd grown up with. They'd been on all these films, and she was doing a skit with them in Elizabeth I costume, full regalia, and she was a bit of a tough nut, Bette Davis was. So, but Ricky Rooney was at the opposite. So at the side of the stage when this happened, Bette Davis immediately passed out, fell flat on her arse, gave her a heart attack, and Mickey Rooney was jumping up and down screaming for more. So it's kind of such a weird image. So that's my memories of that. But we were lucky to survive it, I tell you. We were damn lucky. And Moon had a bit of shrapnel in his arm. He comes out clutching. He wasn't putting that on. He actually has got a bit of drum shrapnel embedded in his arm. It wasn't a very big bit, but it was enough to, a bit of blood. And we were going to make the most of that. Push it in a bit further. I'm bleeding.
And Pete attributes that hearing stuff for starting at that explosion.
Well, it was huge. I mean, it was huge. It was huge. And I mean, that's the nearest I've been. I would probably say it's almost as big as it's probably as big as a hand grenade. But obviously it didn't have the shrapnel, so we were lucky. But the explosion itself was, because you watch me, and I used to stand at least 12, 13 feet from Mooney's drums. If you look at the perspective, and I just go. I know I'm a lightweight, but don't get off my feet that easy, I'll tell you.
How did you feel about those early promotional films that Kit and Chris were very keen to do? Like, of course, one for Happy Jack, where you were acting out. Those were the birth of music video.
Yeah, they were good fun. They were good fun. It was something to do in our only day off. Keith and Pete used to enjoy them a lot more than I did. Again, I felt out of place, completely out of place, uncomfortable, out of place. I just wanted to be in a band on stage playing music. It was what it was all about to me. I never ever saw the big picture, I suppose. I was a stupid singer.
But you had a great sense of humour, and the humour came through in those ones, especially the one, I think it was the one for Call Me Lightning, where Keith comes out as a robot. And
Oh yeah, that was all stupid ideas. How could you not have a great sense of humour when you're in a band with Townsend and Moon and Entwistle, the darkest humour on the planet, until he decided to, with such bad timing, to leave us. Rotten fucker. I'll pay you back when I get up there or down there, John, wherever you are.
When the film came out, of course, it'd been a legendary performance that no one had ever seen. The Rock and Roll Circus, the Stones had shelved it. Had you even seen the performance at the time of shooting it in '68?
No, they were very cagey about letting that out, and there was lots of rumours going about that they were kind of embarrassed that we were the better band. I don't think that's true at all. I think they were having terrible troubles with Brian. The Stones are a great band, but Brian was in a real state that day. I mean, he was falling off the stage, and I loved Brian. He was a great guy. I think that was more the reason. I think it was too bloody painful for them. But that was good. It was good to do that. It was really. What was really great about it, we actually got the chance to play the mini opera in its entirety, and have it filmed. And it was Lindsay Hogg did it, and I mean he did it for film, and it looks like it, and it's very fast, snappy, but it still captures the essence of what the band is. It's not. We're starting to mould into what we became. You can see the soul being, the cake being found for the cherry.
It's certainly, I think it's one of the things that was a revelation for the fans, and it's one of the absolute highlights among many. It's one of the total highlights. It must be a complete rush to see that you performed that in its entirety, and because of Brian or whatever, the Who really did jump out that day. On that show, you jumped out amazingly.
Yeah, I can't be objective about that. I mean, I kind of watch everything we do like this. And I listened to records like this for the first 20 years. I can't. It's really weird for me. I've never liked my voice. I've always hated it. I love them. I love Townsend songs, and I try and find the character in them and dramatise them. And I was that's what I am. I'm not really a singer. I'm a dramatist of his lyrics. That's what I try and do. But when I'm doing it, I can listen to it. But once it's done, I don't want to hear it again. And then if it's on a radio, so I might kind of be able to see it in a different perspective. Does that make sense?
George Martin once told me that he said that John Lennon hated his voice so much he did everything to screw it up. He wanted to put it through.
Oh yeah, put it through the washing machine.
That's
and
right.
With the echo of the tumble dryer as well.
Is that self-modest? Are you being?
No, I don't.
Is that
know.
false modesty?
I think Rod Stewart's the only singer I know who likes his voice. Apparently, but most singers. I mean, most people. They hear themselves recorded on a tape recorder. They think, God, do I sound like that? And they spend the rest of the day in complete and utter paranoia with their mouth shut.
Now, of course, there was one time, a notable time, when all four members of The Who were interviewed, which became a running theme through Kids Are All Right, and that's the famous Russell Harty interview, where Russell Harty interviews all four of you. At one point, Pete
attempts to interview. I think you can rephrase that. He attempts to interview all four of us, and we just all give up, and it becomes the Keith Moon show.
It does, with Pete ripping off Keith's clothes and
yeah. Well, people don't really realise that Pete was often the antagonist to Moon, and he would really goad him and play off each other, and a lot of the trouble that Moon used to end up in, Pete had actually started.
You look like you're actually having a good time in that interview.
Well, I mean, how could you not have a good time around Keith Moon? He was so much fun when he was on. I've never met another character like him. I mean, we had our ups and downs as people, what people don't, that were kind of living the lives that we were living at that time. We were in each other's, almost in each other's beds. Not quite, but, you know. And so it will be impossible not to have frictions in that situation. But towards the end, I think I was one of the only stable things in Keith's life. It was a really weird situation. For me, it was particularly weird because I was the only straight one. Someone had to be straight in the band because I was dealing with one alcoholic, probably drug addict. In Keith, Pete was an alcoholic. John was an alcoholic, and you know, then Pete became a. I mean, so someone has to be straight, and I couldn't do. The only drug I could do was pot. And I didn't used to do that very often because I couldn't sing on it, because it dries your throat up. So it kept me away from it. I was very, very lucky.
Was there almost like such a strange moment? Because there is sometimes when you're in a party and everyone's drunk as a skunk, and there's one designated driver or whatever, and they all go, "Oh, come on, join in." Did you ever actually have all that kind of, you don't understand what we're doing?
I used to have my own fun in my own quiet way, yeah. But with the band, I used to always have to be the one to, because it could have all just gone pew at any moment. It was like a bomb waiting to go off, and someone had to be the case that held it together.
You know, there are a couple of things in the film that people watch and exhilarate them, and they can't understand them, but they're just exhilarated, but on a visceral level. I think watching Keith at any time destroying his kit, I think there's a bit where he's destroying the pictures of Lily kit, and he's going completely berserk and throwing it into the audience and stuff like that. What did you feel when those things were going on? Was it like Pete always called it auto-destruction and gave it a kind of art school hue, or was it just like theatrics to you?
Theatrics. Of course it was theatrics. It's all about being noticed. It was, Keith Moon. I mean, my biggest problem with Keith Moon is that I used to have to stand in front of him. And I mean, how dare anybody stand in front of Keith Moon? That was his attitude. Drummer should be on the front stage, singer at the back. So you know, a lot of that smashing up is Keith Moon actually coming to the front of the stage. All right, so he's throwing a drum at you. He's being the star, and whether Keith saw it or not, and I mean, when I consoled him after he first saw the first cut, I said, "Don't get down, Keith. You're the bloody star of it. Don't worry about it. You know, I'll get you fit again. We'll get you back."
So when Pete would go on talking about auto-destruction and various Dadaist principles, what were you thinking?
What a load of bollocks.
Now the scenes that were specially shot with John, that famous bit where he collects all his gold discs off the wall and goes out and does did like a skeet shooting and then finally mows him down with a machine gun. Does that summarise John's sense of humour? Talk about that.
Yeah, it's just total John. You know, he was always the man of the material, which that clip is. I mean, it's all about possession. But he had this dark side of it. No, it does sum John up very, very well.
You know what John said when somebody said, "How can you shoot up all those gold discs?" You know what John's reply was, don't you? He said, "They're not mine, those are Roger's."
Oh, well, probably were. And he probably meant it.
Shooting up your gold discs.
Yeah.
But it was his idea to go crazy with them.
I know, with my gold discs, yeah. But I mean, like I say, that was John's humour.
Some of the other specially shot sequences, the performance at the time you were recording "Who Are You" in the studio and actually getting it to recreating the recording, which I think had taken place maybe a couple of weeks earlier. Do you remember doing that? The camera's in there for when you were recording "Who Are You"?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was a weird period as well because it was the punk period. And again, you can see the kind of, we're trying to find our place in this new world. It worked, we kind of found it, but I'm much more comfortable with that song today than I was then, from what I remember. When I hear it on the radio sometimes, I think, I wish I hadn't sung it like that, but I did, and that's it.
Moon, of course, was a huge surf music fan, so there you are doing Barbara Ann.
Oh yes, the placatory Barbara Ann, yes. Yes, Keith, we'll do Barbara Ann in a minute. You can play this one for now.
Did you enjoy doing it?
Oh, I used to love doing Barbara Ann. I mean, I didn't have to scream my guts out, and I could do the low voice, so it was great. And we used to do great harmonies. We were as good as the Beach Boys. And Moon's face when we used to do it on stage, it was. I think it's when he was probably at his most alive when we used to do that. I remember we did a gig in San Francisco. We did a day on the green with the Grateful Dead, Bill Graham production at Oakland Stadium. We were on first, obviously, because you have to wait all day to go on after the Dead, and we let Keith do Barbara Ann, and he did Johnny Be Good. I've never ever seen him so happy in all my life.
What was your very, very earliest memories of when the first three core members of the Who got together and the beginning, the coalescence of the Who?
It didn't come. The very early stuff was youth clubs and playing Buddy Holly stuff, but that I don't call that the Who. That was the Detours. The Who came together and didn't come together until Moon joined us, and it happened to the instant he got on the stage, and we played Roadrunner as a tester. He came up and said, "I can play better than that drummer," and the instant he played with the three of us, something just incredible took over. And it was like you've finally fitted a jigsaw puzzle together. That's when the Who was formed.
Do you remember the first demo session you did? And that was the autumn of '63 in that bloke's flat somewhere.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and he was I think he was a guy who did sound effects things for the BBC, and it was in Cricklewood. I do remember it. Yeah, and it was in his front room. And what was the song we did? Peter had written 2 original songs. And I'm singing like a bloody choir boy. Because I didn't have, I mean, one of the biggest problems in the early Who was finding a voice for those songs. Because I've been singing like Howlin' Wolf for the last 5 years. Or down in my boots down there, growling away. Or up there singing like James Brown, doing all that soul stuff. When Pete came with these really peculiar, what I thought were peculiar songs, because they weren't normal kind of blues-based rock and roll. They were something completely different. It was very difficult to find a voice for them. The voice. It was easy to find a voice, but not the voice. It took me... I don't think I got the voice until live on stage with Tommy.
That first demo session must have been really strange. You were saying you were in some bloke's front room, and then Pete's songs. Can you remember the songs or anything about those songs?
Well, we heard them literally the day before, and they were very sweet. I thought, what the fuck is this? I always wanted to be in a blues band. I was a soul singer. So it was weird. I had to go back and join the choir.
Was that the first time you'd actually made a recording?
Yeah.
40 years ago, so you actually went back into a recording. That was the first, but it was somebody's living room.
Yeah, someone's front room. With all the furniture and everything. But it made an amazing sound. I don't know how he did it, because all he had was one, I think it was just one 2-track tape recorder, or maybe 2, and he was bouncing. I don't know what it was, how he was. He was quite cagey about how he made the sounds he made, because he used to do all the music for Doctor Who.
Ron Grainer.
Yeah, and that was all kind of way ahead of its time, that music, and no one ever knew. So he's quite cagey about what he was doing in his little back room.
When you were a kid growing up, did you have the remotest concept of what 40 years would be like, and the fact that you would be doing one thing that has lasted 40 years?
No. I knew we'd make it. I knew we'd be really successful. I always knew that. Never had any doubt about that. But no, I mean, it's one day at a time, isn't it? 40 years gone. God. But our best work will come within the next, hopefully within the next year, but definitely within the next 2. You wait and see. Because there's a hunger out there. No one writes like Townsend. And we've done one song so far that he's written. And I've played it to a few people. I've been doing a thing for the History Channel. And living with cowboys and the real thing. And we've been doing Hank Williams stuff at night, just singing stuff. And I played them a bit of this song. And they all say, what's that? Immediately it's got that magic. And I know our best work will still come. You won't see.
No one sings like no one writes like Townsend. No one sings like Daltrey, and nobody makes music like the Who, except the Who.
Only the Who, yeah. I mean, but that, you could say that of the Stones.
No.
They're a good band too.
Nah,
They're a good.
Who were better?
Well, it's all subjective.
Not to me, though. Thank you.
All right,
It
mate.
was brilliant.
Yeah.